Hello, I'm Corey and welcome to episode 24 of Flips, Flaps, and Folds. Today's project is a fold over the edge type page, and it's a variation of something I saw Carol Laws do in one of her Valentine's albums. I am going to do my best to link that video below. It's similar to but very different from this, but I got the concept from her and I wanted to make sure and give her credit. She's phenomenal. The way this fold over page pocket flip flap fold works is it goes over the edge of a page, and I like it because it looks kind of complicated, but it's actually very, very simple. And the front of the page can be decorated if you choose, or you can make it into another pocket. And it's got a angled pocket here. You can flip it over and you have some choices in the back. You've got all this journaling space here. You can take three sides and glue this down. Let's see if you can see it. You can glue three sides down and then have a back or top tuck. But you can also just either, make yourself a pocket back here, or make this into a paper pad, or put some lined paper on it for more writing space. It's just super versatile. It comes in handy either way. And in addition to the front pocket, then it flips open again, and you've got another angled pocket, and you've got a bottom angled pocket. And again, one of the beauties of this particular one, where did I put it? You can, instead of having the decoration on the front, you can put a piece of vellum right here and angle that, and then you've got an additional pocket on the front, and then your pocket here, as well as an additional pocket here. Or you could put a piece of vellum on this side. So even though it's a two-sided option or two-sided pocket or over the edge pocket, you've got a lot of real estate, I guess, to work with and places to decorate. And because it's used digital paper, it's actually fairly flat and it's actually fairly easy to do. And then on the back side, you've got one pocket here. But again, I probably could and would put another pocket here of some sort, maybe angled like that. Or I would, finish this off with a bit of lace or lace at the bottom or something along those lines. And I will show you how to do that. All right, I'm using Gail Augustinelli's new digital kit, or fairly new digital kit. I know that everybody knows her, but just in case, her shop on Etsy is Cinnamon Tea, and it's called the Vintage Neutral Collage Kit. It comes with 5 different papers, and what I did is I just printed these on both sides. And to do this, you use 3 sheets of paper, and they should be double-sided. You can have one side coffee dyed if you want to, but it works really great with thin paper. I don't recommend cardstock for this one simply because it gets really bulky really fast. All right, before we make it, I'm going to show you a couple variations. When I first made this, my prototype, and I forgot how I folded it, so I had to tear it apart after I'd sewn it, was really thin. I think Carol used real thin long. Like hers is what, maybe 3 inches or so thick. And that's what I started with. And then as I was playing with it more, I found 2 things. And here I'll show you one of the samples. The longer and thinner it is, the more overlap you're going to have in the middle with your folds. So if you are wanting your papers to abut each other, you're going to want longer, thinner pages. And all 3 of your pages will be the same size. If you like, as I do, a little bit of a gap here, the one in my other book has even more of a gap. And this one, which I sewed incorrectly the first time, and I'll show you what I mean. This one has even more of a gap, and I actually like the gap. So that'll allow you to go a little bit wider with your paper, but you want taller paper and narrow paper if you want no gap. Shorter paper, wider paper if you do want a bit of a gap. Personal preference completely. And this is, again, one of Gail's papers, and this is another of her papers. And this one, for this finished size, I used 4-inch panels. So when I cut down the digitals, I cut them to 8 inches by, I think it was 7.5 inches, because when you print a digital, you're going to get a bit of a border around it. And in order to accommodate that border, I ended up making mine 7.5 inches tall by 8 inches wide for this particular one. And yes, of course, you could go wider, but that gives you, again, more gap right here. So the wider you go, the more gap you're going to have right here. This one, I just used the 4" by 8" by 7.5" inch. When I say 4" I mean each panel is 4 inches. The total measurement was 8 inches, but each of the panels is 4. And this one, I think it was a 4.5 or even 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So this one was almost 10 inches wide. And so it's got more of a gap here. And I will show you what that looks like. Again, the option here is you have a pocket on the front, you flip it over, and you can either have a pocket in the back or leave it blank. And then you've got a couple pockets on the inside, and then you've got a pocket on the other side. I'm just showing you the same thing with some different papers. All right. To make this, do I have all 3 of the papers here? You need 3 papers cut to the exact same size. Whichever size you decide, you want 3 papers cut to the same size. You're going to take each of the papers and fold it in half. Directly in half. You don't have to use a scoreboard, and it doesn't matter if it's 7¼ inches, 8¼ inches, 9. It doesn't matter. As long as you've got your 3 papers the same size, you're good to go. You're going to fold all 3 of them in half. Hamburger. Well, actually, yeah, hamburger on this one because it is the wider side. And 3. Sorry, because I'm peeking around the tripod pole, it's kind of difficult to see the edge. Now at this point, you've got your 3 base pieces. One of them you're done with, just put it to the side. That's all you have to do until you're ready to ink or sew or what have you. The first page, you are going to take it and open it up. And because I printed them same, they're the same thing on both sides. But you're going to take the top 2 corners and fold them down to your center score line. Now I'm going to turn my light, and I apologize for that, just so I can see my score line. The important piece here is you want to make sure you don't go past that score line. So when you take your corner down, you're going to bring it down and you're going to come close to, but don't overlap that score line because it'll create bulk that'll allow you to not fold it correctly when it's all said and done. So that side and this side. And another beauty of this is a lot of times when you're doing this particular type of fold, you have to make sure that the sides match and that but this one you don't because they're not going to be right next to each other. So you can see here, this one is a little bit longer. I didn't fold them perfectly, and that's okay. It's not going to show in the end. So that's a happy thing. All right. But I don't have a point at the top, so that I don't care for. So I'll bring this one down a little bit more because when I fold it, I really do want a point at the top. All right, so yeah, there we go. Here is my second piece of paper with 2 folds. I've taken the right and the left upper corners, folded them into the center line, and you can see what happens if you go over the score line. I've got this little divot here. We will eventually glue or sew those down so it won't show so much, but that's something to keep in mind. You know what? I can also trim that off. We're just going to trim it off because it's not going to show. But that's one of the reasons you don't want to do that. You don't want that extra bulk in there. All right, that is page 2. Page 3, you're going to do the same thing. You're going to open it back into, did I print these differently? No, I don't think so. Sorry, it just looked different because I don't have this piece on the end. Maybe it's on this side. Oh, I see why, because I did a little different. It's okay. It'll all work. This one, I am going to, I want to make sure I tell you the correct way. So I open this up just like a greeting card. The top left goes down just exactly like we did on the other side, or on the other piece. Top left goes down. Two, but not past that center line. Top left goes down. And on this one, instead of the top right going down, the bottom right comes up. And again, just to that score line, but not past the score line. Sorry, I'm kind of guesstimating where it is because of the pole. So it'll end up looking like this. All right, so you've got 3 pieces. One folded like a card. The second folded like a card with the top corners folded down. And then the third, the top left folded down, bottom right folded up. So this is what they'll look like. Now, I like to sew and I like to ink. So this is where I would do some of my sewing and inking. Before I assemble it, I would go over to my machine, and the one that looks like a pentagon, I would come and sew only where I folded, only where I folded. So I would sew those two sections, and I would ink those two before I glue anything down. And on the third piece, I would do the same thing. I would sew only where I folded, only where I folded, and I would ink those. All right. Then I'm ready for the next step. When you assemble this, you take your piece that's folded just in half like a card, and then you take your pentagon piece. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, 5. Pentagon. Good. Whew. Took me a second there. And you're going to open the card up and open your pentagon up and put the two together. And that is how you assemble them. Now, I am assuming, so you can see here that it did exactly what I told you not to do because I wasn't looking down the side. What happens is it bulks up and folds over if you don't fold it to the right or the left of the line. You don't want it to touch that line. Now, if I wasn't going to ink it or wasn't going to sew it, I would glue those two sections down before I assemble it. But I want to put it together so I can give you the option. So we're going to assume I've sewn and inked these two pieces, and I'm going to put it together. And then we're going to assume I've sewn and inked these two pieces. And the way I'm going to assemble this is, so I took my card and my pentagon, and I married the top of the card with the center of the pentagon. With the back piece, I'm opening my card. The pentagon is on my left side now, and I am going to take the section that I just folded, my last piece, and I am going to wrap it around the back of my card. And so your finished product will look like this. Now, here's where you have to make a decision. This piece is going to wrap around your page. This is my page. This piece is going to wrap around your page, and you're going to end up eventually gluing it. So you've already sewn this. If you are going to sew it, you want to sew this prior to putting them together, and then you're going to fake sew. And what I mean by that is you're going to sew this section and this section without sewing it to anything else. You're just going to put a seam on there. It'll match this one if you're going to sew. And then on this side, before you sew, before you glue, before you assemble, and before you put it finally together, you have to decide if you want a pocket. You put the pocket on before you do any of the sewing. If you want a paper pad, well, if it's a temporary paper pad, you want to put your belly band or your section or your piece here so that you can put your paper pad in and out. And when paper's gone, you can add another paper pad. But you want to do that prior to gluing or sewing. If you're just going to leave it blank like it is in my other book, then you can assemble it right now. Once you assemble it like this, if you're going to glue it, whoops, sorry, I pulled that out. If you're going to glue it, you want this to fold open like this. So you're going to glue the bottom and the side just to your crease, right? So this will be your pocket tucked together. You're going to flip it over, and you're going to glue your side and your bottom again. So this will be a permanent piece. If you're going to sew it, before you even have this piece on, you're going to sew in the same spot. You're going to sew the side and the bottom, and that will take care of this side and bottom. So you only have to do the sewing part once. Then, if you want the back, do the back. When you put this piece on, this is where I made the mistake on that one. Don't sew like you did on the last one, because then you'll sew your back flap closed. So you'll want to open it up and sew your top, or your upper inside, your top, and then your outer fold. So that's going to give you the stability you need. So you'll glue or sew right along here. And that is it. That will give you your completed project, and here's one that's done so you can see what I mean. It's got to wrap around your page like this, and you have the option of putting a pocket in the back or not. You've got your pocket in the front. You've got two pockets inside, a bottom tuck and a top tuck. And then on the other side of your page, you've got your back pocket. And if you're going to put a little pocket and sew a little pocket on here, you're going to want to do that before you glue your page down to your book. But that's all there is to it. And it gives you some options. You can personalize it. You can make it shorter. You can make it wider. You can really make this work for you. Now you can see on this one that my two edges don't meet because of the size that I made it. Well, this one I made it a little bit narrower. and a little bit taller. And this one, they just touch. So in actuality, if I were to ink this and sew this, it would look like a straight line of stitching almost all the way down. So that would be a really cool effect. And you've got, here's your pockets again, and here's your completed project. It wraps around your page. You've got one writing space, pocket, paper pad, whatever. And then you flip it open. You've got a spot right here and a spot right here. And then when you flip over your page, you've got the tuck spot where you've glued it here, right here, and then a pocket or whatever decoration you want on the front. Okay, and that is today's pocket. And if you're wanting to just be here for the pocket, there you go. It's done. It's good. An update on my Etsy shop and the people who expressed interest in purchasing a 5 for 10 to support my next novel. For those who are interested, I've ordered the next novel, and it's called A Boy Named Bat, and I'm excited about it because my particular class has several autistic students in it, and the book, A Boy Called Bat, is about an autistic student and students interacting with him and treating him, you know, just like you would hope that we would treat any other student. And it tried to give his insight and perspective on being autistic. And it's written for children. It's an age appropriate book, but it's got fabulous reviews, and I'm excited for my kids to read it just to help with their understanding of their classmates. So I intend to stock my store tomorrow morning with, I've got a stack right here. I went through my envelopes and I pulled out the ones that I thought were an appropriate size, and I've packaged some of them. See, I've already even sealed it. I couldn't tell you which random 5 pieces are in here. So some of them are ready to go, and some of them I've got to do some finishing touches on. And a couple things that are important to note. Your envelopes are going to be all different sizes. Your pieces are going to be all different sizes. No 2 envelopes will be the same, but they will have similar items. All the items are from my Scrap Busters or from my video. So if I've made a sample piece in the video that didn't go in the book, or if I've made samples before, those could be a piece. I use coffee when I dye my paper. All of my paper is coffee dyed, whether it's using black thread or off-white thread. If you don't like the smell of coffee dye, this is not a great product for you. Just wanting to give you a heads up. I don't notice the smell, but I like coffee, so it doesn't bother me in the least. I do have one that says purple pack because all of the items in here are purple. I very rarely use purple, even though I think it's pretty. So there is one purple pack, and I'll list that separately. But I will show you. I'll give you just a sample. And I can't show you exactly what you're going to get because I am not taking pictures of all those. But I can give you an idea. I originally told you I would give scrap cards. There would be a cluster and a scrap card and then 3 random bits. Well, the scrap cards are time consuming and I only had a few of them. So what I found that I did have is a lot of tags. Now I haven't finished these. I've got to put ribbon on them, but I will put ribbon and finish decorating these tonight. So your package, should you choose to purchase one, will have a tag of some sort. And there will be, when I say tag, it'll be decorated. It will have a tag, and I have a lot of tags. So it will definitely have a tag, and it will have ribbon or string or whatever is appropriate for that particular tag. It will have a tag, and it will have a cluster. One of my embellishment clusters, the kind of the random way I do these, and they'll be embellished. It'll be a completely embellished cluster, whatever that end is looking like, whether it's stamped. You will have a minimum of 1 item that's sewn. I sew all the time, so realistically, you'll probably end up having more than one that's sewn. So if you're not a person that likes stitches, and it's going to have ink, whether it's black ink or not black ink. Yeah, black soot on the black stitched items. Well, this one's torn. I guess I did that when I was pulling it out. But most of them will have the walnut stain ink and the regular stitches. And then, see, here's even more tags. I've got lots of tags. You won't get 2 tags. You'll get 1 tag, 1 cluster, and then 3 random items. But you can see what I mean. There's just lots and lots of tags. Well, this wouldn't be a tag. This would be an envelope. So perhaps you will get a tag, a cluster, an envelope. Oh, here's a tag. A tag. Here is a notepad, a little notepad, and then 1 more item. Oh, maybe an envelope. And it's literally, oh, you already have an envelope. So I won't give you 2 of the same thing. But, oh, maybe a fold down. Maybe I'll give you, maybe it'll include a fold down. So you will have 5, this is kind of goes like this, right? Fold down. So whatever they are, there'll be 5 random items. You will have a minimum of 1 item that's sewn, but obviously, like, look here, there's 1, 2, 3, and 4 that are sewn. I sew a lot, so realistically it'll be more than that. It will be inked. It will probably smell like coffee, even though I don't really even notice it anymore. I'll put them in my shop tomorrow. My shop's name is Creating with Scraps. So capital C, Creating, capital W with capital S, Scraps. Kind of like I start all my videos with. And I will just list what I've got. And once I see that somebody has purchased one, I'll just write your name on it and put postage stamp or stamps. I'm not sure yet which it is. I mailed one to Gail today as my guinea pig, and hers was $1.20, but I put a couple extra things in it because I'm me. So your flat fee of $10 will include postage. So the fee will be $10 flat. Now, I don't know how I'm going to have to do it with taxes. I don't know if Etsy will automatically charge you tax. I'm not really sure on that. But I'll play with it and see what I can do. My goal is to be able to send them internationally. And I sent a couple packages today internationally, and they were both right around $2. So what I'm thinking I might do for the next one, because I am going to have a Scrapbusters 2 video, simply because I've found a whole bunch of things, and I've been making things that I didn't include in my first Scrapbusters. What I'm hoping to do is be able to ship the 5 for $10 to Canada, but make it 5 for $12, and the UK. Because the shipping is right around $2.20 or $2.40 or something like that for a fairly flat envelope of the size I just showed you. So that's my goal, but I have to still figure out all that. And I think that's it. I've got a project to share with you tomorrow and a couple more things. I will share a video on how I do the die cuts, because a couple people asked, and I will do a sewing machine video. And I will get to tags, tabs, and tucks, and I've got more for flips, flaps, and folds. There are just, oh, that one's really pretty. I feel like pink. There are just more ideas than days, so I will get to that. All right, if you stayed this long, thank you very much for watching. I really appreciate your support, and happy creating.